Hi, it's Doug Shire. I'd like to thank the friends who helped with the filming of this instructional video about how to assemble, disassemble, and operate Sparky the Unicorn. Specifically, Danny Swan, Carl Gesslein, and of course, Norm Scott and Lawrence Clarkberg. And myself, we gathered the other day to film what you're about to see. And I just really appreciate everyone's contributions. Sparky is a labor of love and could not have been built without a whole community of support behind us. So enjoy the video, and you can always reach out with questions.
And the first thing we're going to be doing today is to be talking about how to build the very tall carport structure that goes over Sparky the Unicorn during an event, which keeps off the sun, that helps to preserve the color of the fabrics, and also to keep the rain off, of course. So in order to do this carport assembly, we're going to be taking the normal carport structure that you're probably familiar with, and we're going to be extending the height of the legs. So here we go. This begins with sorting the poles into the shortest, the medium length poles, and the longest. You can see that the difference is fairly subtle, but this one here, the shortest one, those are the uprights that form the diagonal pieces that create the roof. These two parts, okay? The middle length poles go together. You'll see that one of the poles has a swage.
This one.
In other words,
This one over here.
all right. So one of the poles has a swage, meaning that it gets narrower at the end. And then these two poles, which are basically the same length, one is swaged, one is not. These are the poles. Some of them are labeled with the letter B. In fact, they're labeled B1 and B2. The swaged one is B1. The non-swaged one is B2. Those fit together. And these assemblies, there are 6 of them, and they form the ridge line of the top of the carport, and also the top of the 2 wall sides. So here we go. These are the B's. The shortest one that forms the ridge line is an A length, and the longest one, which is a little bit more than 6 feet tall, some of them have the label C on them. There are 6 of those because there are 6 legs, and you'll see that the bottom of each of these C long vertical poles has a hole drilled through it and a line right here, and above the line is a number. This one is a little bit faint, but it has the number 3 on it. The extension for the pole has the number written on it also. This one happens to be extension pole number 5, but you'll see that it has a 1/4 inch bolt going through it. Obviously, it fits inside the bottom of this pole, and it would go through that hole. So there's the first extension, but actually each of these vertical poles has 2 extensions on it. This is the first one, and then there's another extension which has a swage again, and the final extension has this white and blue label on it just below where the swage is. So that goes in the very end. I guess it goes this way. Anyway, you get the idea. So we're making a very tall pole, probably something about 9 or 10 feet high. There are obviously 6 of these assemblies. These brownish poles, once again, are labeled with the numbers 1 through 6. And there is a number and a label on these galvanized extension parts, and they bolt together here. And the final extension is done simply by putting the swaged end into the larger end. So that's how the vertical poles are made. Okay, so now we're going to put the carport together, and we've laid out a ridgeline pole, which, remember, has the letter A and is the shortest. And this is a corner part that has 3 pipes that fit into it. So that's the ridge line that's going to go up in the air. Okay, here is the top, what will be the top of the wall. Remember that those are the 2 B labeled pipes, which are equal length, one swaged, one not, forming a piece that's about 10 feet long. And the vertical pole, which would have an extension on it, is right here. Now, before you put the verticals up and lift the carport off the ground, what you want to do is completely build the house-shaped assembly on the ground, all 10 by 20 foot roof of the carport, and attach the tarp to the frame with the bungee cords that we're supplying, and have that fully assembled, and also attach the ratchet straps to the corners down here. You can pick up a ratchet strap, come up around, wrap around the pole, and then back down, making a kind of a loop. Or you can do a girth hitch type of knot to attach the ratchet strap. The reason is, once you put the carport up, the ratchet straps, these corners are going to be out of your reach. And it's easier if the ratchet straps are already attached in the first place. And we're going to use 6 ratchet straps, 1 for each of the vertical poles. Okay, so after you have attached the carport cover tarp to the frame, the best way to put it together is to pick it up like so and insert 3 of the vertical poles. Okay, so now it's going to be slightly off the ground with vertical poles going out that way, right? Then get a ladder. Sparky's ladder is helpful for this if it's folded in half, okay? And then use someone on a ladder to help lift the other side of the carport up. So now it's going to be fully up in the air, all right? And the person on the ladder should ideally be a tall person who can reach up and, you know, have their hand about 10 feet up where the carport should be anchored. And then you can get the if the ladder is in the middle of the carport, that one person can support the whole carport's weight, while other people get the vertical poles underneath these connectors, and then you can ratchet strap it down to the ground, and you should be all set. Now, there is one final thing, which is that there are other. There's a difference. The ones with 3 poles like this are for the corners of the carport. The center of the carport structure has four-way connectors, which is pretty obvious if you've done this before. Okay, so we're going to also show how to attach the end of a ratchet strap to a corner of the carport structure. So the best way is to to go up and over. Here, Carl is going to demonstrate kind of making a crossing over.
And then back through the strap. And so we want to take the strap and put it back through.
Notice there's a welded loop here that is different from the hook on the end.
So we want to go through that hole. Oops.
Whoops. Here we go.
I can get it started if you can grab it.
All right, there we go.
Like that.
So we're gonna grab it, pull it through,
Go ahead.
and
Pull it up.
bring it up.
So you can see that we have it crisscrossed on either side of the thing and then back through the loop.
Right. Now you'll see that the other end of the strap is just comes to an end with no metal part attached. That's the end that goes into the ratchet, slot in the ratchet, like so. Okay, there we go.
So
And now there is an 18-inch lag bolt, right? And that is going to go through the welded loop on the other side of the ratchet, like so. So put that through first, and then use a driver with a bit that we will supply that is made for this head size, and drive it into the ground, and then finally ratchet it into tension. So that's how to attach the carport to the ground. Rolling. Hi, so what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be picking up Sparky's torso and simply moving it from one place to another. But there are some things to pay attention to when you're picking up Sparky. First of all, the four sides, the four corners of Sparky have these angled steel handles that stick out of each side by about 3 or 4 inches. Those are the places where your group of 4 volunteers can grab it. And the structure is top heavy, meaning that you need to get people to work together and to pick a Sparky up at the same time. So use a signal like 1, 2, 3 lift or something like that, and you'll be just fine. Each person, you can help them to anticipate what they're picking up by telling them that they're going to be picking up approximately 40 pounds. So they can kind of brace themselves for that sort of weight, right? And the other thing to pay attention to, particularly if this torso is on top of the cart, is that you need to make sure that Sparky is unplugged from the cart. There are 2 black extension cords which come from this torso and normally are plugged into the power strip which is near the generator. So make sure that they're unplugged, and you can throw them over the top and wrap them around the horn near the saddle, and that way they won't fall off and drag on the ground. Okay, so we're going to pick it up and we're going to walk a short distance. We're going to say 1, 2, 3 lift, and here we go. 1, 2, 3 lift, and we're going to we're walking, rolling. So we're going to talk about the different aspects of Sparky, which include an electrical system, a mechanical or motor system, and an audio system. Let's start with the audio system. Okay, so there are 2 speakers, right and left, which make a stereo pair. The speakers, each one has an XLR cable plugged into it. It should probably not need to be adjusted or removed or plugged in. It should arrive already put together. Likewise, there is a power cord for each speaker, right here and here. Each speaker has a separate power switch, which at the moment is off. You simply click it on and wait for it to warm up for about 2 or 3 seconds. The audio signal from a phone, such as an iPhone, for example, is fed into the 2 speakers using this gray cable here, which, as you can see, has an adapter on the end for an Apple Lightning to plug into a typical iPhone. If you use a phone with a more modern USB-C adapter on the end of it, you're going to need a 1/8 inch to USB-C adapter, because the audio cable uses a conventional headphone jack. We're going to send a Lightning adapter along with it, but you need to supply your own adapter if you use a different type of audio device. Once again, this is the other speaker. It looks a little bit different, but it has a power cord and an audio input. The volume for each speaker has been preset, so that if you have your audio device, such as a phone, providing the signal, it should be able to provide a nice loud sound with the phone approximately in the middle of its output range. It's not necessary to turn the phone all the way up. And there's a convenient place right here next to this battery to tuck a phone and when Sparky's moving, so that the phone doesn't fall, and you can have the end of the audio cable plugged into the phone right there. That's it.
Rolling. Hi there, I'm Lawrence, guest star in the Sparky user video. I wanted to mention a few things about Sparky's drive system. The Sparky has 2 batteries, e-bike batteries, that power only the motors. Pretty much Sparky's lights and sound system are always powered by either the generator in the front when he's mobile, or you can also plug it into a wall outlet if you have access to a wall outlet when Sparky's stationary. But the 2 batteries here they look different, but they're actually the same kind of 52 volt e-bike battery. One of them does have a power switch that you should know about. The black one in front, you have to hold down this button and you'll see it lights up, and 3 green lights, 4 green lights means that it's fully charged. And then to turn it off, you can hold down that button. And then the batteries themselves are kept charged by these 2 chargers. And these chargers should start up automatically when you plug them in, and I've already plugged them into the battery. Again, they have different connectors, which is kind of annoying, but that's how it works. And then the batteries themselves each have power lines that there's actually an adapter here from this kind of connector to this kind of black and white connector. And I'm not going to plug it in right now for safety. So I usually leave these unplugged so that Sparky won't be accidentally activated. And so these 2 chargers have one plug for the battery, and then at the other end they have regular wall outlets. And while Sparky is running, being powered by the generator, it is possible to charge the batteries while the generator is running by plugging these into, when Sparky's torso is up here, there's a power strip right about here. You can just plug these two in there, and you'll see these displays will light up and tell you Sparky's state of charge. And you'll see that these particular batteries, 58.8 volts is fully charged, and about 42 volts is a low charge. So it's best to just try and keep them charged up either while the generator is running, or if your campsite has a wall outlet, you can charge him during the day when he's stationary. Did you talk about the brake? Should I mention?
No, go ahead.
So another important piece of Sparky's drivetrain is the brake. And the brake is this lever here. You see, pulling this lever up makes a little bar touch the wheel. Very primitive, but effective. And then the brake has a locking mechanism that you should know about. This lever here, so you pull up on the brake and then that locks it. So now Sparky's not going anywhere. And then to unlock it, pull up on the brake and then push that locking mechanism back.
Could you do the mechanism one more time?
So one more time, pull up on the brake and lock it in place. Then to unlock, pull up on the brake.
Okay, a couple other quick points about the mechanical parts of Sparky. There are two chains, one on each of the motors, and the chains go to the chain wheel that's on the axle. And definitely keep people's fingers away from this area. It's a good way to lose a finger if you happen to get your finger caught in that chain. It's quite dangerous. And another subtle point is that this battery here, you were demonstrated how to turn it on by pressing and holding the power button on this front battery. But a feature that it has, I guess you could call it a feature, is that if you do not use the battery for a period of time, it will shut itself off. And then you will hit the gas and wonder why Sparky isn't moving. It's possibly because the battery has automatically shut itself off from lack of use.
Also check that a connector may have come undone. There's various connectors. Make sure that there's a connector going all the way from the battery to the controller to the motor.
Okay, let's stop.
Here again. So I'll demonstrate how to connect the batteries to the motors. So I would say leave them disconnected when Sparky's being transported, and then when you're ready to roll, connect these connectors here. So there's two connectors. This connector to one of the sides, and this connector to the other sides, and then the next step is to release the brake. The brake's off, and then I think the left pedal actually operates the right motor, and the right pedal operates the left motor. And I think we determined that it's a little bit easier to start off with the right pedal and then add in the left pedal. And then to back up, you use the Flintstone backup method. Just back up manually like that. Let's do it.
Okay.
One issue we've had with one of the controllers here, this is one controller, and this little clear box is another controller. And sometimes if this little one gets overloaded, it stops working, and you'll see a light blinking on it. It gets some sort of error condition. And to reset it, you can unplug this connector, wait a minute, wait a few seconds, and then plug it back in, and that should reset that controller.
and you will notice that the controller is not operating because the pedal, when you're trying to drive, does nothing, right? And in particular, the one that he just unplugged and plugged back in is connected to the left foot, the left pedal, which is connected to the right hand motor. That controller that he just demonstrated resetting is the one that is a little bit more cranky, and that was why we suggested taking off using your right foot, making the left wheel turn, and then adding in your left foot, which drives the right wheel after a few seconds.
Rolling.
Okay, so here comes the big day. Time to assemble Sparky. So the first thing is to have your cart nearby and the torso adjacent to it.
And put the brake on.
Make sure that the brake is engaged on the cart so that it doesn't roll by accident. And now what we're going to do is the torso here is, you can see right here, one of the 4 legs is resting on the ground. There are 4 of these square steel legs, and they correspond with these 4 receptacles. And the important thing about lifting up the torso is that it's quite top heavy. So you want to make sure that each person, you need 4 people who can lift about 40 pounds. You need to make sure that everyone lifts together and that one side, left or right, doesn't get lifted more than the other side, because it will be very difficult for the people on the low side. Okay, so the other thing to note is that it's helpful to get 2 of your stronger lifters, ideally taller people, to be on the side closest to the cart. The reason for this is that I'm going to be grabbing this handle and I'm going to have to scooch my body around the speaker. And likewise, Carl is going to have to scooch his body around the back speaker. And it just takes a little bit more upper body strength. So here we go. We're going to go 1, 2, 3 lift, and then we're going to pick it up. So here we go, 1, 2, 3 lift. We're holding it relatively level. We need to be higher up.
Hold on. Okay, I'm around.
Okay.
Well, hold on, Doug's got to get around. Let's move it towards Doug. Me and Larry forward. You around, Doug? Yeah. All right. Put it in the hole.
Ready?
Okay. So sometimes it does not want to go all the way down. Here you can see that the torso was not fully engaged in the socket. Now it is, and for safety's sake, you'll see that there is a bolt hole in the socket here. There are some 2.5 inch long, 1/4 inch bolts that go through each of these sockets, and you may need, as Lawrence is doing here, you may need to rock the torso back and forth a little bit, or give it a little nudge with a hammer or a wrench in order to make these 4 bolts fit. I think you can stop. Ready?
Yep, go.
Okay, so now before you attempt to put the head onto Sparky, you first need to put the horn on the head. The reason is that once it's up there and fully assembled, it's quite high up and you wouldn't be able to reach to put the horn on. So you got to do it down on the ground. Now for transportation, normally we bend the wire that comes out of the head where the horn is, we bend it over so that it fits in the trailer better. So the first thing to do is to brace it with your hand and straighten out the wire by simply bending it back like that. The next thing is to pick up the horn and to slide. There's a hole in the bottom of the horn. You slide that over this wire until it reaches the bottom, and then you see that the near end of the of Sparky's horn has a connector, and then depending on what type of LED strip is on the horn at the time, this one may be replaced soon. You'll either use this 3-pin JST type connector and plug that in, or you will use this 4-pin flat connector for attaching to the power supply for the horn. Okay, now if you're using the flat type of 4-pin connector, it's hard to see, but there is a small embossed arrow in the plastic housing of the connector, and the mating connector also has an embossed arrow, and you need to line those two arrows up with each other. In the case of this 3-pin JST type connector, there's only one way that it will go, and you'll see that over here on one side there's a small lever. That is what you need to press in on when you're disconnecting the connector. It's not necessary to press on the lever in order to engage the connector, only when you're trying to pull it apart. You'll break the connector if you don't squeeze on this lever when you're trying to disengage. Okay. Rolling, okay. So now we're going to talk about the specifics of how the lighting in the head of Sparky works. Okay, so when you plug in the white extension cord into the torso power strip of Sparky, everything will turn on except for the horn. The horn requires you to press a reset button in order to get it to start. So first you plug in the head, and some parts will come on right away. Specifically, all the LEDs are on. The lights for the eyes are on. The lights in the nose are on. But you'll notice that the LED strip, which I'm going to be wrapping around the horn here, is not on. And in order to get that going, you're going to need to remember, the head is going to be up on top of Sparky, right? So you need to go up on the ladder, up into the saddle, stand up, right? So your butt is no longer on the saddle, so you're quite high up on Sparky. Push your hand ahead of you, lean on Sparky's frame, and reach ahead of you to the back side of the neck, which will be in front of you when you're standing on Sparky, okay? Now if you want to come over here with the camera, I'm going to show you that there is a bundle of mush under here. If you come on this side, it would be easier to see. And this is where the reset button is. It's quite close to the near end of the neck. It's taped right there. You can see there's a gap between two silver colored plastic pieces with a black button in the middle. What you want to do is reach with your fingertip and press that black button straight down, not to the side, but straight down one time. And that is the reset button, which begins the sequence for the program for the horn. If Sparky's power is interrupted for any reason, for example, if you turn off the generator and then you refill it and turn it back on, you're going to have to climb back up on Sparky and stand up in the saddle again, lean forward, and find this black button in the middle of the silver plastic part here. Press it again, and it will start again. That's it.
All right, going.
Another thing that you'll notice right now is that the LEDs on the main of the neck are not operating, okay? I don't have the ability to fix that right this moment, but chances are that the power supply for this is dead. I noticed that it was getting weak earlier, so I'm going to supply a new power supply and controller for these LEDs that you can replace once you get to where Sparky is going. And in order to do that, there is a small black plastic controller for these LEDs on the main, and that is located over here near to where the basically in between the ears, right here in between the ears and slightly underneath, slightly inside. If you look, especially in daylight, you're going to be able to see where this black plastic controller is for the LEDs on the main, and you can replace that. You can also replace the power supply for those LEDs as an extra measure of repair, and that is taped to in this bunch of power supplies here. I'm not sure which one it is. It's okay to simply add a new one on top, tape it in place, and off you go. Another thing that you're going to notice is that these wires have a tendency to come loose when people vigorously move the head back and forth. And so it's a good idea to tape them up firmly before you let anyone get up on Sparky, so that the wires and everything all move as a unit. Okay, thanks. There you go. Okay, so now we're going to be attaching the head of Sparky, which is something that you do after the torso is mounted and bolted onto the cart. Okay, now the ladder is unfolded in the following way. It has these detents or stops. Did you hear that click? That means that the ladder is being prevented from moving at the hinges. And so what we can do is we can start to unfold the ladder, and we're going to hear a click every time it goes through one of those detent spots. Okay, and now if I want to open it further, you have to pull these levers to disengage the lock, and now it's free to move again, and you heard it click again. So now we're going to do the same on the other side. We're going to open it up to it till it stops, click, and then like so. Once again, these levers sometimes are a little cranky and they don't fully disengage the lock, and you may find it difficult to move the ladder. If that's the case, wiggle the ladder segment a little bit as you also wiggle this lock mechanism, and you can eventually free it up and get it to unfurl. Now, for putting the head on, we use the ladder in an A-frame configuration with half on each side, and you want to take the ladder and put it as close to the torso of Sparky as you can get. So touching right here. Okay? Now you want to have a stronger person lift the counterweight of the head right there and climb the ladder and insert the counterweight into the opening for the neck.
Maybe
Okay.
show the ball in the socket.
Right. Now we're going to discuss how the head mounts to the mounts before we go up there. If you look over there, you can see in the opening a trailer hitch. Okay? That trailer hitch has a mating part down here. Okay? What we're going to do is first we're going to rest the head on a horizontal metal bar, which is to the left and right of where the trailer hitch is, and then using an assistant who can get inside of Sparky and lift up on the counterweight, they can assist whoever is on the ladder in lifting Sparky up and then setting the hitch mount down onto the trailer hitch. Okay, now's the big moment when we're going to attach the head. So we're going to have two people, one on the nose of Sparky, the other one on the counterweight at the near end. So Lawrence here is going to climb up the ladder.
Got it. Yep.
Okay. And Lawrence is going to feed the counterweight over the bar and into the inside of Sparky. Right? And another volunteer is going to be on the inside of Sparky, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to reach over, I'm going to lift up on the counterweight at the appropriate time.
Ready?
Okay, I'm going to lift up.
Is it on?
Yep.
Okay, so if you have an assistant help you lift up, it's relatively easy to attach the trailer hitch to the trailer mount, and just like on a car or a truck, you fold down the here, you want to climb up the latch. You fold down the latch after you put the ball inside the socket, and then there's a safety pin that you put through.
You're gonna have to. Can't really see.
Okay, a couple final points. The head has been put on top of Sparky, but there's a couple last details. First of all, there is a white extension cord. This powers everything that is contained within the head, okay? And that needs to be tucked inside Sparky's torso in the opening here. And plugged into the power strip, which is mounted on the vertical member of Sparky. There's an empty slot on one of the power strips for that extension cord. Okay, it's on the left side. And the other thing to take note of is that the reins of Sparky need to be over near where the rider can reach them. Okay? Because if they're up on the head, they're not going to be able to reach. And finally, it's not shown right now, but there is some fabric that will be supplied that is ordinarily tucked inside of the head, and the fabric's purpose is to cover this opening between the head and the torso, the neck area, which has this gap right here. What you can do is use safety pins to attach a piece of fabric loosely between the two, not taut, because otherwise it will prevent the head from moving, okay? But you want to just have like a scarf that you pin on to the head and pin onto the torso so that this unsightly gap is filled.
Go.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about Sparky's legs. I'm going to use this one leg as an example. And looking at the leg, which is kind of face up with the electronics facing us here, what you see are the core elements of powering each of the LED strips. Each of these strips, there are two on each leg. One is kind of in the upper area. The other one is wound in a spiral that goes down the leg, okay? Now, each LED strip has a 110 volt AC to 12 volt DC power supply, and it has an LED controller, which is, for example, this thing under this white tape here, which receives the 12 volts DC from the power supply, and it provides color signals to the LED strip itself. And the strip is plugged into the white controller. Here's one of those white controllers. The strip is plugged in using a flat 4-pin connector, which once again has an arrow embossed on the controller side, the white side, and an arrow embossed on the black connector that is attached to the LED strip, and the two of them plug together. Now, it's a good idea when you make a connection like this. There's a lot of vibration when Sparky's legs move, so it's a good idea to take a piece of tape and wrap it around this joint, and all of the joints, in fact, to keep them from getting pulled apart by vibration. Okay, so if you encounter a problem where an LED strip is out, whether that's on a leg or on Sparky's torso, you can basically methodically work your way through and find the failure point. The common failure points are these. First, I always check the joint between the LED strip itself, which has a black connector on the end, and this white flat connector that comes from the LED controller. You need to make sure that the arrows are lined up with each other and plug it together. Sometimes, yeah, there it goes. Now, I usually put a piece of tape around that joint because this often wiggles loose. Another thing that often will wiggle loose because of vibrations is the joint between the 12 volt power supply plug that is plugged into the LED controller and the controller itself, that right there. So it's good to put some tape across this area. There's none here now for demonstration purposes, but that should really be taped up to prevent it wiggling loose. Another final point where it often can have a problem is right here where the main power supply, 110 volts, plugs into the 12 volt adapter supply. So it's one of these triangular type connectors that's like on a computer or something, and you want to make sure that that's seated well. These have been known to work themselves loose, and it will be helpful if this power supply is taped to a metal rod, such as on this leg or inside of Sparky's torso, to put a piece of tape there to keep it from vibrating. Okay, so you will notice that there are 2 power supplies on each leg, right? And yet there's only one cord to supply the power. So we use this cube adapter. I usually plug one end like so, and the other end in here. You want to make sure that there's a little bit of slack, like so, because the leg swings back and forth when Sparky's leg is moving. When someone pulls on the rope, you need to have a little bit of slack in here, or else it's going to break. So this this master plug plugs into the torso of Sparky next to each of these handles where the legs attach is a receptacle. Okay, that's where your cube plugs in. Okay, one final point about the legs. The legs are labeled, and they actually have a specific place: front, left, front, rear, front, left, and right, rear, left, and right. And those are indicated on pieces of blue painter's tape on each of the legs on the inside. This one says RR, right rear. So we're going to go to Sparky's right rear. And this is where this leg is going to attach.
Now to attach the leg, you'll need ready a short bolt and a nut. And then the idea is we'll be putting the bolt, I'm just going to use the middle hole for now, through here, this hole in this hinge, and then through the middle hole in this sticky outy part. And it takes some coordination, but basically that, so that I can feel the bolt is in there, and then I take the nut and loop around and just put it on finger tight.
Yeah, I can't really get a shot of that.
And you kind of have to do it by feel, or I can actually see it through the mesh here. And then it's good to put at least two bolts. 2 bolts is fine in each leg.
Another point about this leg is that if you look down here, you'll see that there is a bent piece of wire. This is a guard that prevents the leg from touching the rotating wheel when Sparky's in motion, okay? It has been bent during transportation, and this is likely to happen when Sparky is in a trailer, okay? So if this happens to be bent when you pull the cart out of the trailer, you can simply apply some pressure, bend it back so that it's near to the wheel but not touching the wheel, and then the leg rests on the front of that. Or if it was a rear leg, the leg goes behind the guard.
After you've got 2 legs on a side, we tie this rope to connect them so that the passenger in the cart can activate the leg. So basically tie the rope each end to the top of the leg.
Another point to be careful of is not simply to attach the rope to any point on the rim of the leg, but instead to be sure to tie it to a point where there is a joint between 2 of the heavy steel main structural elements. And that way you're not pulling on the fabric or on the chicken wire.
And to demonstrate the use, as you're riding along for extra realism, you can pull the passenger, pull on these ropes, and activate the legs. Or if someone's in front and you want to kick them out of the way, or they're behind you.
Okay, with regard to operating the generator itself, it's probably familiar to you, but there is a choke that you need to open if the generator hasn't been running for a while. That is over here on the far side of the generator. You want to switch it over to the fully open position. The other thing to note is the engine switch, which is down in the lower right corner of the unit. It needs to be in the on position. Okay, so with the choke open and the engine switch on, you can then pull on the starting cord right here. It may take a few tries. The other thing that I do when I'm first starting the generator is it has an eco mode for throttling back the speed of the motor if it's not needed. And I shut that eco mode off with the switch here on the left side of the generator. I shut that off when I am starting the generator, and that way it will rev up and warm up more quickly, and then I switch on the eco mode after about a minute of operation. And another thing to note is you can create a vapor lock in the gas cap here. You'll see that it is currently in the on position. The indicator is pointing to on. That means that the cap is venting the gas tank normally. If you happen to have this in the off position, like so, it will basically create a vacuum inside the gas tank, and it will quit. So, and you'll wonder why it won't get started again. So make sure that the gas cap is in the on position before you start it. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the generator and how that is connected to the rest of the system. Okay, so the generator is connected, has its output right here plugged into this power strip, which is sort of the master power strip for the entire system. You can see that there are two plugs plugged into the power strip right now, and those are the cords, power cords for the two speakers. Okay, and this power strip is plugged into the generator right there, like so, and you'll see there is a blue wire. This is a ground wire. At Loveburn in particular, they're quite sensitive about having the generator grounded to the chassis of the vehicle. So you simply take this wire and put it underneath this grounding screw right there on the generator, and it'll be grounded. Okay? Finally, there is a 12-volt output of the generator, and that is for running the lights, the headlights of Sparky. So where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Okay, so you'll see that there is this red and black wire with a strange connector on the end, one horizontal, one vertical. That is attached to the generator. You'll see down near the bottom there is a place for a 12-volt output. It's on the right hand side down there. I'm going to feed it down here, and it's a little tricky to get it in there, and it doesn't like to go in all the way. It for some reason doesn't like to be pushed in all the way. You'll need to wiggle it until the lights come on. And the other end of this 12-volt cable is right here. This is an Anderson type connector that is attached to one of the two headlights here, and the master connector for the headlights is right here. So if you plug in right like so, you will be able to have this headlight be on. I find that the headlights are annoyingly bright, and if you're going to be stationary for a while and not needing the light, I usually leave it unplugged. Okay, so that's that. And there's another cable coming from the other headlight over here. Okay.
Explain the release.
Okay, so when you're disassembling Sparky, it's much the same process as assembling the head in the first place. First, Lawrence is going to pull the safety pin out of the joint between the trailer hitch and the...
we'll show that a close-up.
Yeah, we will. And then once that connector is opened, then we can lift up on the head and pull it off the trailer hitch.
Okay, so yeah, ready when you are, Doug.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, and unplug the cord.
Yes, make sure that the power cord to the head is unplugged first.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
Now push forward.
Okay, bring it down. Yep. Yeah, I got it. You wait, Lawrence.
Ready?
Yep.
Another thing to note is that if you put by safety pins the extra fabric covering Sparky's neck between the torso and the head, you need to unpin it first before you try to pull the head off. Likewise, remember, pull the extension cord, the white extension cord, out of the power strip going to the head. And finally, before pulling the head off, make sure that the reins, the leather reins, are somewhere up on the head and not sitting on the torso where they could catch.
I'm sure do a close-up of this.
Yeah, so now we're going to discuss.
So this socket fits on the ball on Sparky's neck, and then once the socket is in, you close this lever and put the safety pin in, and that holds the head in place. And then take it off, lock the pin, pull up the lever.
Okay, cool. So when you are disassembling the torso from the cart, there's a few things to remember. First, make sure that all four of these bolts that hold the torso to the cart are undone. Also, make sure that the two black extension cords which come down from Sparky's torso down to the power strip here are unplugged from the power strip, and the best thing to do is to take them and throw them up on top of the torso like that. Okay, and now you're pretty much ready to get four people to lift the torso up and off. Okay.
Yep.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, lift.
Okay, I'm good.
Oh, we're going to the
And
trailer.
we can go down to waist height.
Okay.
Waist height. Okay.
I was gonna walk right into this car. That's probably a lot safer to carry at this height.
Down.
So does it go to one side?
Goes to the left wall. So this last segment concerns how to safely help
a participant get up and down off of Sparky at an event. Now, obviously it would be better if Sparky were right here, but I think these points are worth making. First of all, obviously, pay attention to the state of sobriety of the individual who wants to go up there. Obviously, some somewhat intoxicated people have been up on Sparky before, and we've been fortunate to not have any accidents over perhaps 10,000 people, but that's in part because we've been watching out to see what condition people are in before they even start. But if someone wants to get up on Sparky, I usually encourage them to take one rung of the ladder at a time. In other words, to not go, not raise your leg two steps, but one step. Many people have a slight fear of heights. They will start to hesitate on their way up the ladder. I find it reassuring to kind of get my body behind their body and to put my hands up in the air, not necessarily touching them unless there were consent, but just a couple of inches away. It seems to be reassuring. On their way up, I tell the participant to put their foot on the shelf, the footrest of Sparky, and I reassure them that it will support their weight. That is a helpful cue for people. So when they put their foot on the foot plate or footrest, I then tell them and point at the same time. I point to the horn in front of the saddle and tell them that they can hang on to that as they swing their leg up and over the saddle. Now, if two people are getting up, I first tell the participant who's already climbed up to scooch forward as far as they can toward the horn of the saddle and leave enough room behind them for someone to sit. Then, as the second person goes up, they put their foot on the foot plate or footrest, and I often will have them put one hand up on the shoulder of the person who is already seated up there. And that's a good way for them to hang on to something solid as they swing their leg over behind the other person. It is also possible for the second person who goes up to reach kind of around the person who's in front of them and also use the horn of the saddle for support, but it is awkward. It's much easier if they simply put their hand on the other person's shoulder. That's pretty much it. The procedure for getting down is just about the same, and a word or two about the ladder itself. First of all, make sure that it is fully extended and is locked or clicks when you stretch the ladder fully out, and also to lean the ladder not on the rounded part of Sparky, but try to find a flatter area on Sparky to lean the ladder against so that it doesn't rock from side to side when someone is climbing up or down. Okay, so that was a few pointers about helping people get up and down, and enjoy your time with Sparky. And as always, reach out with any questions. Bye-bye now.